He clearly felt slighted. In my view, that's just some unspoken code among players. Honestly, I found it amusing. I just kept thinking, it's really not that serious. Nothing to get worked up over, but then you hear, "You aren't welcome here, little girl." Aja Wilson will act like a martyr, crying, "I'm being targeted," while simultaneously bragging, "Yeah, I'm a bully." So what? Is this really all boiling down to race for you? A hot mic caught Aja Wilson, confirming what many had suspected. And now the evidence is public. The aggression toward Caitlin Clark wasn't just heat-of-the-moment stuff, it was systematic. Once you listen to that recording, everything you've witnessed over the past year finally clicks. Because right now, Aja Wilson is on the record stating, "If there's a white athlete, you better believe I'm coming for her." It's sort of an unwritten protocol, but if she's white, I'm putting significantly more pressure on her than any other opponent. Every rib-bruising hit on Clark, every ignored elbow, every shove that officials dismissed as mere intensity, none of that was coincidental. The real mystery wasn't if Wilson was bitter toward Clark, but rather just how far she was prepared to go. That's the supposed player's code, so no, I was laughing. I thought, it's really not that deep. It's never that serious. But yeah, truly bizarre. It's supposedly never that deep, yet there's an unwritten rule to target white players, with more aggression than anyone else. It's never that deep. Yet Aja Wilson has, well, she has made it incredibly deep. We have the proof right here, we've got the audio, and we're breaking it down right now. Let us know your thoughts below. Why can't Aja Wilson seem to give Caitlin Clark any room? Here is what makes this feud so problematic. It didn't just emerge from a rough play in a pro game, it existed long before. Clark turned pro before she inked her contract, or played a single minute in the WNBA. While Clark was still dominating at Iowa, Wilson was already shifting the goalposts by focusing on championship rings. If she manages to get one, then you all can have the conversation, posing as objective analysis while ignoring Clark's collegiate achievements. So, how did she really stack up? It felt calculated and precise. It was a veiled attack on Clark's career, masked as a simple statistics debate. Clark's tenure at Iowa didn't merely break records, it rewrote history. Marshall finds Clark. Can she make history here? There it is, it's done. The unrivaled top scorer in women's collegiate history. Records that stood for generations were suddenly shattered. They were gone. Her matchups generated television ratings that outperformed even the NBA postseason. Individuals who never followed women's hoops were setting reminders just to witness a college player effortlessly hitting long-range shots. Yet, what was transpiring in the pro ranks? Wilson's championship titles, actual tangible victories, seemed completely overlooked by casual viewers who were fixated entirely on Clark's current trajectory. Davis, clock draining away. Can they advance the ball in time? Clark lets it fly, she hits it. She does it over and over again, rather than acknowledging that Clark was drawing a massive new fanbase to a sport that desperately needed it, filling venues that were previously desolate. Wilson kept pivoting every conversation back to championship rings, as if assists, high viewership, and sold-out stadiums were meaningless without a trophy. Then came the spark that ignited the controversy. Wilson was heard at the Final Four, implying that the popularity of white stars like Paige Bueckers and Clark was a byproduct of societal privilege, not individual skill. Aja Wilson shared her admiration for Paige Bueckers and how she and Kelsey Plum recognized their own privilege. Paige Bueckers versus black athletes. Paige reminds me a lot of you. Like Aja, you aren't really about all that. And she acknowledges that her status helped her get to that level. And while she is talented, she understands her advantage is what propels her forward in this. And it really mirrors your situation, and I certainly mean that as a compliment. Is that actually a compliment? Let's address that. Is that an honorable remark? That statement spoke volumes about her mindset, because suggesting Caitlin Clark is only a star due to her race isn't a legitimate critique of her game. It diminishes her hard work entirely. Those deep three-pointers don't count. The incredible vision is ignored. That isn't analysis. It's a targeted smear campaign masked in progressive rhetoric. And here is what makes the situation even worse. The players who could have easily validated that claim chose not to. Angel Reese stated it clearly. Others backed her up. Clark's massive appeal wasn't manufactured by corporate executives. It was earned one impossible bucket at a time, and her competitors understood that better than anyone else. She was commanding a court, with a level of skill that even NBA pros were watching. The teammates around her saw their own stats skyrocket as well. That is what elite play does for a squad. Still, Wilson kept harping on rings like a lawyer clinging to one solitary piece of evidence, showcasing it endlessly. Then Clark went pro, the revenue followed, and the bitterness moved far beyond mere court rivalries. Clark inked the most lucrative footwear contract in WNBA history with Nike, featuring 8 figures, a signature model, and a personal collection. Wilson's reaction lacked any genuine appreciation for the game's growth. It was pure envy broadcasted loudly. She bypassed the standard congratulatory etiquette, choosing to play the victim instead. A'ja Wilson, the WNBA's reigning MVP. The elite talent of women's hoops that no one seems to notice. Well, it's a bit of both, honestly. I just want to be remembered as an all-time great. When you discuss the GOATs of the W, my name belongs in that conversation. Ideally, the top 3. My ambition is that when people contemplate women's basketball, or when they reflect on the W, they see my name. Go on, A'ja. Tell them how it is. Whatever it takes to reach that status championship rings or individual honors, I want to be recognized within that elite tier. I need that acknowledgement to find peace at night. She acted as if her thunder had been stolen, though the evidence didn't support the narrative. Accounts from that period confirmed Wilson was already negotiating her own Nike deal. So, when she performed her public grievances before any available microphone, it wasn't some courageous stand. It was a calculated PR move while Clark's debut year was fundamentally transforming the league. That season was truly earth-shattering. Arenas that previously struggled to fill seats were turning away crowds at the gates. Television ratings soared. Corporate sponsors began paying close attention because of her nightly displays on the court. That rising tide benefited everyone, Wilson included. But rather than embracing the surge, Wilson spent weeks taking subtle shots at Clark during media spots, framing it as mere blunt honesty. It clearly left an impression. Then, Clark secured the Time Athlete of the Year title following a season where she shattered the assist record, eclipsed the three-point record, and gave even the quietest venues a postseason intensity. Wilson countered by framing the situation as a racial agenda. It makes no difference what accomplishments we achieve as black women. We are perpetually sidelined and ignored. It's infuriating. Aces star A'ja Wilson reveals raw perspectives regarding race, the WNBA, and the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. I believe it's a massive issue. Many might claim it's not about race, but from my perspective, it absolutely is. She told the press, "So for you, this is a racial divide. That's precisely why it frustrates me when people don't act like race isn't a factor here, because it absolutely is. Nobody even brought it up. There was no debate about whether Wilson was being ignored. She chose to insert herself into a moment defined by Clark's historic run, shifting the focus to her own personal perceived mistreatment. You can't look at record-breaking stats in assists and three-pointers and claim the resulting honors are just random. That isn't analysis. That is an attempt to erase the facts. Contrast that with Clark's actual public demeanor. She was reserved, emphasized the team, deflected praise, and let her court performance do the talking. Wilson, meanwhile, was consistently on the record, shaping a very different public image for herself. Advertisers take note of that. Corporate partners avoid brands linked to controversy. They want faces that resonate positively with the public. Clark was becoming exactly that type of star, which makes the fallout from the hot mic incident so particularly damaging. Because the recording wasn't an isolated fluke, it was the culmination of someone who had cultivated this specific attitude for months. Wilson sat down for a relaxed podcast chat, ditching the usual media decorum, speaking as if the conversation were private and the broadcast equipment off. It wasn't. She began describing how her squad deliberately targets Clark. It wasn't about tactical analysis or defensive schemes. She openly stated they aim for Clark with intent and prior coordination before the game even starts. That isn't strategy. It's a targeted attack, and she confessed it, on air, as if it were common knowledge among those in the loop. These are Asia Wilson's own statements, and all of this is further supported by Kelsey Plum. Remember Kelsey Plum's perspective? The pressure of being the top draft pick is incredibly harsh, particularly if you have the stature or the media hype following you from your college days. It's truly unrelenting. And I don't think it's any easier being a 5'8" white woman entering a league primarily composed of black women who want to take you down. It is what it is, and I didn't realize it. You know my personality. I just walked into the locker room upbeat and naive, saying hey to everyone, completely oblivious. That distinction carries more weight than anything else she could have suggested. Trash talk is part of the game. It's always been physical, and that's never been an issue for anyone. But this wasn't just heat-of-the-moment banter. This was calculated, orchestrated before the opening whistle. Match those comments against every shove, every elbow, every illegal play that seemed to target Clark with unusual frequency, and the entire narrative becomes crystal clear. Fans have sensed this for 2 years. The league passed it off as intensity. Wilson just gave us the actual label for it. And she isn't some obscure athlete blending into the background. She's a decorated national team regular who has been granted a prominent voice and a key position in shaping the league's public identity. One would expect such a high-profile star to polish their remarks with PR-approved messaging before speaking. But an open microphone ignores media training. It skips the revisions and just broadcasts the raw truth. Now, look back at the full history of her comments. The college-era title insults, the remarks about privilege, the racial undertones during the awards season, and the incessant whining regarding sponsorships. None of these feel like random occurrences anymore. Each was a single brick, and this recording is the wall they've constructed. The league's response was swift and crystal clear. Players and commentators recognized it immediately as a candid admission, not a slip of the tongue. Nobody accidentally confesses to deliberately targeting a rival. You state it because it's been the game plan all along, and you momentarily forgot you were being recorded. While Wilson was gifting the internet that revelation, Nike shifted gears. Head to any athletic retailer today and you will spot Asia Wilson's signature sneakers gathering dust on the clearance rack, marked down long after their initial launch. They aren't moving, they're stagnant. Clark's shoe hasn't even debuted, yet customers are already swarming store staff to find out when they drop. Nike is positioning Clark in golf and various other arenas, markets she isn't even required to occupy, simply because they need her brand everywhere. That level of cross-market visibility isn't given away lightly. It's a massive gamble that one player can define a company across diverse demographics. By contrast, Wilson's A1 footwear received minimal promotional muscle. A quiet introduction, zero multi-sport integration, no massive advertising blitz, just a product that failed to gain traction and now languishes at a discount. So, let's address the real issue. Is Nike simply pivoting based on on-court results, or are they shielding their image from a player? constantly tied to drama, Nike doesn't shift budgets without cause. They prioritize engagement and positive sentiment, not polarizing headlines that drive investors away. Conversely, Clark's influence is elevating everyone around her. Kelsey Mitchell's personal brand has surged alongside hers, and the entire Fever roster is reaping the benefits of the massive attention, centered on one superstar. The sales projections make the outcome obvious. Clark's footwear is expected to sell out in mere moments. Wilson's has sat on shelves for months without clearing. That isn't misfortune. That is the consumer delivering a final verdict. You don't need a panel of experts to interpret the motive anymore. Just listen to the audio. Intentional, systematic, verified. And what was the actual result? Nothing. Every dirty play, every veiled insult disguised as regardless of the noise, Caitlin Clark remained unfazed. Her performance stayed stellar, and her reputation kept soaring, constantly. Whenever critics attempted to silence her, she only gained more momentum while Indiana assembled a championship-level core. Clark, alongside Boston, Mitchell, Cunningham, and Hull, turned stadiums into sold-out venues and drove sales, lifting her peer simply by playing alongside them. Wilson can continue her campaign. She is free to hop from podcast to podcast and spin the narrative. It is irrelevant now. The statistics spoke for themselves. The fans responded. The film revealed the truth. For those of you who have been following this saga while your peers remained skeptical, look no further. You are in the right spot. Courtside Leaks provides the inside look at what media misses and discusses topics analysts refuse to touch. Join us and enable alerts, because when the next big scandal hits, you will want to have the advantage of hearing it here first.